it seems like they've cheated the importance towards giving you what you are looking for versus giving you what you need.
Welcome to another episode of A Productive Conversation, and this is once again the latest in our monthly series, PM Talks. I'm Mike Vardy, and joining me as always for this series is the insightful and always entertaining and wise and many more adjectives that are pleasant, Patrick Rhone. Today we're going to dive into a topic that affects us all, kind of a follow-up to our previous episode in the series, the balance between urgency and importance, with a focus on importance this time around. So how do we navigate these two forces? How do we really dive into these important things when life is throwing us curveballs like milestone events, unexpected home repairs? Yes, those are still going on as this episode drops. And even AI's growing presence in our daily routines. Patrick and I, we share more personal stories, as always, some practical advice and some laughs as we explore how to prioritize what really matters and how to avoid letting important things become urgent crises. So whether you're struggling with your own balancing act or just want to hear a couple of productivity geeks chat, well, this episode has something for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this latest episode of A Productive Conversation, one in our PM Talks monthly series with my good friend, Patrick Rhone. Patrick, long time no talk to.
Michael, how are you?
Good. Don't call me Michael.
How many people call
Don't. My
Oh
mom
my
calls
gosh.
me Michael, and she'll throw in my middle name too. Actually, you know who calls me Michael? Is
Oh,
my mother.
you're in trouble?
Yeah, my mother-in-law calls me Michael. She doesn't throw the Ryan in there, but she calls me Michael. And
so now we know your middle name.
yeah, that's fine.
Michael,
It's funny.
Michael Ryan.
Michael Ryan Vardy,
Actually, you could
Mr.
you
Vardy.
could drop the Vardy and
Yeah.
have like Michael Ryan as your like secret agent name.
So Jack
Does
Ryan.
that sound like kind of like a
I'm like Jack
Yeah, kinda
Ryan's
like a
like
secret-
long lost
sure.
brother. And if you've ever seen me, you know I'm built like John Krasinski, right? Like I'm totally like, oh yeah,
You're definitely there.
yeah, I'm definitely there.
Yeah.
But actually, this is a really great segue into the idea of, I don't know, like as we're recording this, I'm turning 50 in like 5 days. So I'm heading
you're
in.
just a kid.
Yeah, yes, to you, but to my kids, I'm like the oldest person on the planet. And
Yes.
definitely the oldest in the household. But the idea of urgency shows up constantly. We talked about that last episode. But I find that like as I've gotten older, that my focus on importance has really been either something that I've given more attention to or have been really not desperate's not, but really honing my ability to go, what's important? What's important?
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Yeah.
as you get
Which
older,
only comes from experience, right?
Yes.
I mean, it only comes by experience. And the more experience you have, the more you are able to have the look back, and the lessons learned to be able to make such determinations reasonably well.
right. And I think the other thing for me though is like alluding to the story I told last time about the insurance stuff that we're going through, or as of the recording. But one of the things that I noticed is, it's my 50th birthday party we're supposed to have. And again, by the time this airs, a solution we may have come to a solution. But because my birthday falls between Canada Day and the 4th of July, it's very tricky. It's always been tricky to get people to do any kind of celebration around that time. So
Yeah.
even when I was a kid, like you're out of school, all the kids are gone, right? So your parties were sparse and so on and so forth. But I'm like, it's my 50th birthday. Everyone's like, let's do, like, Anne's like, we should do a party. So we decided on July 13th because that, it's 10 days later. It's outside of the long weekend, so on and so forth. However,
And more like better, easier for other people to
it's
be
on a
able to
weekend. It works out well. The weather we've had January here in Victoria, so it's been kind of like a wet, not the best month. But July typically, and August and even September are quite nice. However, we planned this party long before the culprit of water damage in our house was found out. We also thought it was only
Mhm.
going to be the basement that was going to be affected, but now the kitchen is, and they've
Mhm.
got to replace
Mhm.
like the entire
Mhm.
floor all the way down to whatever the lowest. Well, you would know what's below. So it's linoleum, then subfloor. What's the thing below that? Is start slat or
Well,
something?
it's Joyce,
Well, there's the joist.
there's
Yeah, they're got to go all that way. They're going to go all the way down. Let's put it this way. They've said
yeah.
you won't have a creak in your floor anymore. I'm like, okay, great. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
means but it means that the kitchen will be out of commission. Now we're recording
Sure.
this, the last week in June. The
Mm.
party is 2 weeks away, maybe 2 weeks.
Mm.
Yeah, 2 weeks away.
About 2
2
weeks.
weeks away.
Yeah.
The basement will likely be in better shape, but the kitchen upstairs, not only like the
Yeah.
floor goes, the kitchen is going to be, they got to rip up the whole floor.
Yeah.
Plus, we have 100-plus-year-old house, so they're going to have to do some asbestos testing from the top down. They have to going to do some core
Yeah.
testing. And the guy who assessed it said, I think I see. He looked under the sink and he's like, I see some vinyl underneath the subfloor. He
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if that
Yeah.
vinyl has
Sure.
it. So that means that
Of course.
it adds another layer of thing. No pun
Yeah.
intended.
Of hassle and time and
Right. And
Yeah.
the way that our house is designed, the only way to get upstairs and downstairs is through the floor that also, now, I mean, they won't have to rip that part of the floor up, but it is the linoleum continues to that point. So our house is
No.
going to be in disarray, right? Not
Yeah.
only that,
Yeah.
but our neighbors, as I mentioned, they are getting some sewage work done. And as of this recording today, they've actually got a backhoe in their yard and they're putting it down and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Again, 2 weeks away from the date of the party. I have been hesitant to cancel the party. I've been thinking about it because this is an important event. It's an important date. It's the 50. I only turned 50 once.
Mhm.
So I have not
Mhm.
made a judgment. I have not made a decision on it yet, whether we're canceling it, whether we might move it. But doing the party inside, if the
Yeah.
weather is crap, is not going to work if the kitchen's under. And doing the party outside
Right.
may not work depending on what they've got going on next door. So
Is there some sort of like park pavilion or something like that
we
that you
may end
might
up.
be able to rent?
See, so that's, well, actually, what we might do is my daughter, who works at the coffee shop 4 doors down, she's going to talk to the owner of the coffee shop, who I'm also friendly with,
Oh yeah.
and we
Oh,
might do
yeah.
that. We
Yeah.
might do that.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
this is
Sure.
an example of urgency versus importance in terms of having to make a snap decision or react versus I've got time. I've got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not really 2 weeks,
Yeah.
because I want to make a decision before, a week or so out. Like I will make a decision on this by July 3rd, my
Yeah.
birthday. I'll go,
Yeah.
either the party's happening
Tell
here.
people where they need to
not-
come.
yeah. But to your point, or to the point we've been discussing in the last episode, is that importance, if gone unchecked, becomes urgent, right? This is an example of
Mhm.
me being, kind of responsive to what's going on and making a
Mhm.
decision based on just the reality of everything, right? Like,
Mm.
but it's still important that I have, for me and for my family, they're like, you need to have something to celebrate your 50th birthday. Like, you only turn
Yeah.
50 once.
Yeah.
But also, my daughter
Yeah.
goes away to university at the end of August. So it's not like the window's huge, because
Right.
it's not like the renovation, the kitchen could still be, insurance
Oh
companies,
yeah.
they don't move quickly.
I
They don't move quickly.
no. Well, and neither do contractors.
No.
Honestly. Once again, getting back to the urgency thing, quite frankly, while the level of importance on this is high for you, and urgency on this is high for you, this is not a broken water heater.
No.
This is like this isn't like a broken sewage system where like you can't use the toilets, right?
We'll get to that in a minute. That's another important thing I
Right.
want to touch on, but keep going.
Right. But in other words, you can still live your life.
Yep.
You can still live in the house. You still have options. You can go to the bathroom when you need to. You could take a shower if you have to. Like this isn't life stopping in any way
No.
what you have going on.
And it's not like,
and
sorry, real quick. And it's not like I can say to the insurance company, well, my birthday's happening and I really would like, they're going to go,
exactly,
what?
right, exactly.
Who cares?
Yes. And the contractors, quite frankly, are going to prioritize based on the things that really are
Yep.
affecting people's lives in a very real and direct sense, in
Yep.
an urgent sense, right? So while this is important to you, it is not urgent to them.
Yeah, and nor is it really important to them. Like that's the other thing too.
No.
It's not. And
Yeah.
and
This is
actually
just another job.
just another job. And actually, it's funny. There's two places where I always get when people ask what I do, that they always go, "Oh, we could use your help." And like, ha ha ha. There's three actually. One is
Mm.
contractors, to which I'm like,
Uh-huh.
no, no, nope. The other is border control. When I've gone through the border, they're like, "We could really use your
Sure.
help." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like, sure, sir. Please let me go through it. I don't have a discussion about this right now." And then finally, the other one is government. Like, I live in a government town where they're
Yeah.
like, "We could really use your
Yeah.
help." I'm like, "Sure. Yeah, I know you
Yeah.
could, but you're not."
But
But, so this is another point. Again, back to like the idea of being responsive. So when the plumber was here assessing all the damage, um,
Mhm.
we've seen our neighbor next door, and then our neighbor 2 doors down have sewage issues in the last
Mm.
2 months. All of our houses were built around the same time. So the plumber's here to assess this other thing. I'm like, "You're doing a diagnostic, right?" I go, "Does a diagnostic, it's just you'll diagnose, like it's a fee for diagnosis." He goes, "Yep." I'm like, "Can you take a look at our sewer?" And he's like, "Sure. Like it's part of the fee. I'm already here. You're paying for the sure." So he goes and he tries to take the drain pipe visual thing off so he could scope it. And our house is so old and whoever painted it is so silly that the drain pipe like comes down from the top and connects to the cast iron because it's that old. They stuccoed it over it
Mm.
completely. So the guy can't like open it, but he does, but because it's all open underneath this back half of the house, he goes in, he goes, "But I can assess it." He goes, "It's a matter of time for you." And I'm like, "Explain." And he goes,
Mm.
"See all these little rust spots here, these little single dot rust spots?" He goes, "That's the cast
Mhm.
iron healing itself from a potential like breach, like a small leak." And he goes, "You've got about 30 of them." He goes, "So,
Wow.
you you, my wife did not want me to get them to look at this because she had it in her head for sure that it was going to be like, this is going to cost, like, they're going to say you have to do it. I knew that too. Like, I mean, if other
Mhm.
neighbors are having the same issues and they've never had it done and our house is just as old as theirs, I'm like, yeah. So the guy's like, "Yep, you might want to look at this." So to your point, you mentioned like, it's not like it's sewage. It's not like it's this. It could be. So not
Mm.
dealing so this is both urgent and important. So, but it's not so urgent that we can't make rational choices around it. Like, doing what we need to make sure like getting a quote, doing all that stuff, right? But when we had like our hot water heater and hot water like our heat go down, which heats our water too, that went down in
Yeah.
winter. That wasn't something that we could go, "All right, we can wait." No, it was urgent.
No, it
It
had to
was
be.
urgent, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with
Yeah.
the leak. So there is this like again, if we just said, "Yeah, we can't deal with this right now." The next time we would have to deal with it is if it's like, "Yeah, so guess what? It broke and there's sewage coming into the back half of your house. And now we're gonna have to rip it out and you're gonna have to go stay somewhere else." It's far more disruptive. But it's like, again, the
Yes.
book writing process, any of this stuff, it with importance, and I alluded to this last time, like with applied attention and pressure, you make incremental progress and the quality of your output is, better, higher, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, compared to urgency, where if you're not careful, it's more about get it done and who cares? Like I'm just gonna and we'll cross that bridge again when we come to it. So yeah, it's so interesting when you're dealing with both things that are urgent and important, but the urgency is so high. Then there's important, like my birthday party, but not urgent. It's really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
not.
yeah.
There is a level
But it's
of
well, and it's important to you,
yes, yes,
and probably important to your loved ones.
yes.
It's not as important to me, although happy birthday,
No, no,
you know?
thank you. I appreciate it. But
I'm not planning on coming,
no, no, no,
you
no.
know?
Well, that's just it. And if you were, I'd be like, hold off on buying those flight tickets,
Yeah,
because we don't know
exactly,
if it's
right,
happening.
exactly,
Well, and
because
that's
we
just
don't know what the yeah.
I've got people that were going to come over from Vancouver, and I'm like, so that plays a role. So I'm not going to sit here and go, I'm going to wait until the Friday and cancel it. I'm gonna make a decision by July 3rd and say, okay, is this happening? Is it not? where is it happening? If it is happening, are we going to do it later? And if so, where? Like, but I can make measured, reasoned choices around that because there is the only thing that is really impactful. Like it's important, but not yet urgent, right?
Mhm.
It'll become urgent probably again, July 8th, which would be the week of the party. That's when it becomes urgent. But I don't want it to become
Mm.
urgent. And I have every bit of control to make sure that it doesn't get that way by taking action now, by responding to what's going on now. It'll be the emotion that would keep me from doing it. It'll be like, but I
Well,
really
yeah,
want it.
yeah,
And then it
yeah.
it's inconsequent. At the end of the day,
Well,
it's fairly it ultimately, while it's important to me, it is in the grand scheme of things fairly, I wouldn't say inconsequential, but it's probably the closest thing I can, probably
yeah.
the closest word I can use.
Well, and the fact that already you're not doing this on your actual birthday.
Yeah.
You've already decided that it's important enough to you
Yep.
that you are willing to do it on a different day
Yes.
than your actual birthday
Right.
in order to make sure that people can attend. And I would argue that if you can make that decision of importance, i.e., it is important enough that you are willing to do it some other day,
Hmm.
that you also can then easily make the decision that it is important enough to do some other place,
Right.
right? Or to figure out some other angle. Or even if push were to really come to shove, to say, you know what, with the bathroom thing, everything else, we've got too much going on right now. But this is important. I really want to celebrate my 50th, and it matters to me. So we're going to do it in September
Yep.
when we have a better chance of having the kitchen ready if there's bad weather, where we can, the weather will probably be a bit cooler, so it'll be even a little bit nicer. All the things, right?
All the
Like you
things, and not only that, Patrick, but as you're talking about this, it's like my daughter won't be here because she'll be in Montreal, but she'll be here on my actual birthday, and we can do
yeah,
stuff that way. So she doesn't need to be here for
exactly.
that party.
Right, exactly, right? I mean, you go out for a really nice dinner at some
Well,
place
I'm going.
really
It's
excellent.
Whopper Wednesday this year, so I'll be doing that.
Uh, Whopper with
And you know why? Because
you get the
Anne gives me shit. She's like, "Oh, you shouldn't eat that stuff." I'm like, "On my birthday, it's a Wednesday. It's 2 for 1,
yeah,
so I get to do what I
it's
want on my
Whopper
birthday.
Wednesday.
I'm gonna have a
That's
Whopper.
right.
I'm gonna have two,
That's right.
right? So yes,
That's right.
and I was born on a Wednesday, so actually, it's funny. What do they say about Wednesday's child? It's funny because I've used it both ways.
Oh, yeah,
Wednesday's
yeah,
child
Wednesday's
is full of
Child.
woe,
Yeah,
right? That's what it is. But
exactly.
I either go woe as in woe is me or whoa.
Or whoa! It's
That's the way I
Wednesday.
prefer it.
It's Whopper Wednesday.
Yeah,
Whoa!
exactly. But I mean, the day is what like I mean, the day is really
Yeah.
what it is. But to your point, like so but again, if it's really important for me for my
Well,
daughter to be there, then the time shifts, right? Like I would have to do it before the middle of August, right? Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but that's a
Well,
choice. That's again back to choices, which that's going to be our most listened
so
to episode.
I don't want to lose this, right?
Yes.
What's interesting is that you said it's the day that's really important, right?
Hmm.
Yes, and
And
if this were 49, you wouldn't be sweating these
nope.
bullets. It's the milestone that is also that you have assigned, that in general, we as people have assigned milestones to certain numbers
Fair.
of age, right?
Yep.
That, 50 is one of those milestones, right? And we've assigned it arbitrarily. It could be
Hmm.
48, it could be, the truth of the matter is that while when you turn 50, you've actually been on this planet for 51 years.
Yes. Yes, that's
Right?
very
So,
true.
I mean,
And not only that, but
so
people go, "It's
everything
me."
about that milestone
It's
is arbitrary.
it's the only part about it that works is it's halfway to 100. I know. I remember reading. I think it was somebody posted this on X or Twitter or whatever the hell we're gonna call it these days, and they said people say that 50 is like their midlife, but the average person lives to 76. So really 38
So,
is, so you're already,
this it
I mean, you're in, so as far as I'm concerned, really I'm 2/3 of the way through in
that's
reality,
right, of
right?
your life.
Right.
Yes, exactly right.
But again, you're right. The number, what's interesting about this year, and this is a bit of a sidebar in 2024, is that the exact start of the second half of the calendar year, anytime there's a leap year, is July 3rd, which is my birthday. So it's
Oh,
like,
interesting.
which is very,
Okay.
because normally it's like, again, every other year it is like,
Mhm.
I think July 2nd is the day, right? Obviously, but it's like
Mhm.
earlier.
Mhm.
But the
Mhm.
exact midway mark is like midnight, July 3rd in a leap year because the
Oh, wow.
numbers are even, right? So this
Yeah.
year, it's so weird. I turned 50. It's literally at the midway mark of a calendar year, which by the way, doesn't mean crap to me either because I don't start my year in January,
Yeah, right,
right?
exactly.
I start my
At
year in
least not from
September,
a
right?
yeah,
So to
yeah.
me, there is a lot of arbitrary figures that we give meaning to that gives them a level of importance. And that's why, like, there's no one is sitting
Yeah.
there planning their 50th birthday party with a sense of urgency unless they've left it too long, in which case that's
Yeah.
the problem,
Yeah.
not the
That's
mile,
the
but the
problem,
fact.
right. Exactly, that they procrastinated,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
yes.
So when I'm looking at all this, and by the way, all of this which you alluded to is with all this stuff going on, I'm not going to say shit because of the sewer thing. Is and I don't want to tempt fate. Is um is there's like it would be okay just not to do anything and deal with that properly and be responsive to that as opposed to adding something else to the mix,
Yeah, yeah, agreed,
right?
agreed,
And
yeah.
and by the way, July 31st is our 20th wedding anniversary. So every like odd or even
Oh,
milestone
well,
is happening
see?
this year. But
Yeah,
we'll
all
do,
at the same
but I
time.
will say that my wife and I have like if we're going through insurance stuff on July 31st and there's renos going on, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go away for for a day. Like you and I will go,
Yeah,
like that's the gift.
yeah,
And we'll
yeah,
whatever that needs to be. But yeah, it's just so
yeah,
interesting when you're dealing with this stuff that the navigation of urgent and important is something that's always fascinated me because the important stuff always gets pushed. Always is a general term. I'll say it anyway. Like the propensity to push important over urgent
mhm,
is so
mhm,
popular. And it's often because we
mm,
misconstrue what urgent means. And we also, frankly, misconstrue what important means
mm, yes, yes, and, not only misconstrue, but
or
just
conflate or whatever you want to say. Like we,
well, yeah, we it's kinda like the urgent thing, when you were saying that, like, you know, "Oh, I've got all these fires to put out," right? It's the same sort of thing. It's like, well, if everything is important, nothing is,
Mhm.
right? And we also, different things are important for different reasons. They are important to different people for different reasons, right? That um and because we don't have a common shared definition, or a common shared understanding, I could say, "Hey, Mike, could you do this for me? It's important." And you may say, "Oh, okay, important. Yeah, I'll do it for sure." But what I really meant was urgent,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Or "Hey, Mike, this is urgent." But
Yes.
what I really meant was important,
Yep. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I urgent denotes it has to be done today, right now, as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
Important is that I need to see that this gets done. Not
Who's
necessarily that it gets done now, but that it does in fact get done.
do you remember the perfect example of the communication aspect of urgent versus important? I think is remember that guy, his name's David something. I'll link to it in the show notes. He's the guy that did the spider where like he's a graphic designer and everyone always asked him to
Mhm.
do stuff and he would just mess with them. Like one of them was like, "Can you draw me a spider?" And then the spider has like 6 legs instead of 8, and the person's like, "Well, could you draw it with 8 legs?" And so it's almost like before AI, he was just listening
Mm.
literally to what they said. They're like, "This is really urgent. Can you do this?" And every by what he delivered. Number one, it was hilarious. But number two, it just
Mhm.
showed the shortcomings of improper communication for things that are either urgent or important. Because he's like, oh,
Mhm.
you want, like, for example, one was a cat, like a lost cat. And it's like,
Mhm.
he drew it and it was like a cat, like a tiny cat with a lot of white. He made a really busy sign. Like, that's too busy. Can you make it a little bit, can you make it so that the cat stands out? So he put like a little cat in the middle of a bunch of white space with like really tiny lost, but the cat stood out. You're like, well, now they can't read it. He's like, okay. So then he just kept doing that stuff. And one was like, can you really make it so that it's eye catching? So then he used like the Lost poster from the TV show Lost with like the cat information so that it draws attention. And eventually the person's just like, forget it. And that's kind of what happens when you in our own heads too, but also when we're
Yeah.
communicating to others is like
Yeah.
the details
Yeah.
get lost in the equation, which I think is
Yes.
also, and I mean, we could probably talk about this for hours, is the idea of like AI prompting and things like that. People get
Oh
frustrated
my gosh.
when they're like, why didn't it get it right? Well, it didn't get it right because you weren't clear. And this is really what it
Yes,
boils down to
yes.
is the clarity
Yeah, oh,
around
yes.
urgency and importance.
Oh, yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah, and um, with the AI thing, it also is. It's looking to be taught as well,
Yes.
right? The difference is you're asking it for information. It's asking you for teaching,
Yes.
and that teaching comes from clarity, right? Uh, you know, uh, yeah, spoiler alert, if you go to patrickrhone.com, everything it says about me there, I started with AI. I asked AI who I was,
Yep.
and it got everything right except for one book. It
What book
assigned a
what
book.
what book did they get wrong? Because I mean, they've done that.
Well,
There's been a few things that's gotten wrong for me too, and some was like, I never wrote that.
so it was the book enough,
Right. Oh,
but the subtitle gave away that it was not my book titled enough. It was written by it was by another author.
right.
And so when it fed that back to me with that minor mistake, I and this is on Chat GPT, by the way, and this is
Yep.
about like 3 months ago now, so I'm sure it's all better. Everything is it works seamlessly
The
now.
world is better now. AI
The world
AI
is
has,
so better. AI is now
in
completely in
fact,
control.
as far
Everything's
as
gonna
you
be
can,
okay.
I think this is just to be clear, we've gotten so good with AI that we have created this entire conversation using
Oh
our
yeah, in fact,
yeah,
this is a sponsorship ad that is actually contextually built into the AI model that we've trained.
this episode is
So I
brought
was
to you by
using
11 Labs.
by Chat GPT
But have you
3.0.
actually
So
no, but really quickly, there is AI software out there called 11 Labs that I've used where I've uploaded one of my audiobooks and you can upload like a whole bunch of your audio and it will learn how to speak like you. Like it will.
Oh, this is great. This is great to know because I actually get requests for audiobook versions of my books, and I haven't really recorded. I've recorded one for one particular thing,
Right.
and even that was like pulling teeth. I hate doing it, and
Well,
that's why it hasn't been done. So
however, yeah.
if I could have this do it for me, perfect.
However,
Yeah.
it's like anything else. You have to play with, you're going to spend more time in post trying to get it to do it with the right level of cadence and not sounding so monotonous or even pronouncing things correctly. I've had to do some things where it's like, why did you say it that way? Because I've done it for a few
Mm,
small things, but
mm,
to your point, it's only going to get better to the point where I remember
yeah.
I was at Podcast Movement in August of 2023 and Jonathan Fields was there talking about AI. Like Jonathan Fields, who is
Mm,
like somebody who is,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
he talks about, living the good life and has a very minimal, doesn't, he's not,
mm-hmm.
you wouldn't assume he's so tapped into technology and he was facilitating an entire conversation around the use of AI with his podcast and
Yeah.
with his work. It's there.
Yeah.
The genie's out of the bottle,
Well out of the bottle.
but to your
Yeah.
point, it has no nuance. It does not
No,
know.
and
So yeah.
well, and so it spat this back to me. It had the incorrect information about the book, And I responded, I said, well, in fact, the book Enough, blah, 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 was written by da, da, da. Patrick Rhone, me, I wrote Enough, blah, blah, blah. And, and it's the subtitle of Enough is There Is None.
Right.
And so it spat back and said, oh, right. Of course.
Yes.
Enough, blah, 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 was written by that guy. Patrick Rhone wrote a book simply titled Enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, there you go.
What's funny is
and now, now I've
knows.
just told it.
Yeah.
Now it knows.
Yeah.
Right.
What's funny.
And so now anyone else who asks, they'll get that. Right.
What's funny about that, Patrick, is the way that it responds to you when you give it new information or when you ask. There's two ways it responds that make me laugh.
Yeah.
Number one is that one. Well, of course, no, that's what I meant. I meant
yes,
that.
of course I meant that.
And then the other way is, I have this idea about this thing. Here's my thoughts. What do you think? And it goes, that's a great idea. Even though it's like, is it though? So you're dealing with confirmation bias at the highest, like it's like, if you want, let's put it this way. Narcissists would love having conversations.
Oh my god!
Because it's just basically going to validate everything that you're saying.
Everything that you right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the problem, right? Well, because bringing this back in, when we'll wrap up shortly.
Yep.
But bringing this back into the world of importance, right? The truth of the matter is that that's because the importance from the AI perspective is not to deliver, is to not, how do I put it? It seems like they've cheated the importance towards giving you what you are looking for versus giving you what you need.
Yes. It's desire versus need.
Need, right. And it sees the importance of giving you what you need, what you're asking for, higher than giving you something that is not what you're asking for, but is more correct.
Which, by the way,
right?
When you think about AI in terms of how it's been kind of portrayed for many, many years in science fiction, AI served man. So it's kind of an extension of that. It's like, well,
oh yeah,
it's an extension of that. In recent years, you've seen, like, in some certain science fiction circles, you've seen like AI go, I don't know, but here's what I think you should do instead. But that is rare compared to the, why, yes, master. That's amazing, master. Like that, it's the master slave kind of thing, for lack of a better term, right? Like that's kind of the,
yeah, well,
but no,
when you put it that way, you bring me back to the I can't remember who this was, Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, where the aliens come down with the book to serve man, and everyone's thinking that this is altruistic, and it turns out to be a cookbook, right?
Yeah. And that's just it, right? Like, it's like, so when you're thinking about it, so anytime, number one, I think some takeaways from this episode. Number one, it's important to delineate important from urgent, which we've talked about in the last couple episodes. Secondly, making sure that you don't give that you don't have too many things that are important that are overshadowed by urgent and vice versa. So you need to be selective about these things to a degree as well, so you can actually deliver the results you want. Thirdly, I think having an understanding of AI and how it works is also something that is important for all of us to do to some degree, but it's not I can check off that box tomorrow kind of thing. It's like, it's the equivalent of saying, I need to get better at the internet. Like, that's the equivalent of it, right? Because the internet is vast, and so is AI. The last time I believe we've seen anything close to this was the dawn of the internet as it's continued to evolve. I can see AI doing the same. So importance needs to be at a level that importance and urgency play a role in our daily lives, but they're incredibly dynamic and they're incredibly nuanced. And hopefully some of the stuff we talked about with real world examples that are happening as we're recording right now, such as, again, it'll help you. In the last episode, if you listened, there's a link to how to give CPR to a dog. In this episode, if you want to get a coupon, if you want to learn about Whopper Wednesday, you've got it. That's important to you. But the key is that there's nuance with all this stuff. And my aim is this all is stemmed from a conversation that I had with he from Rad Reads from a previous episode of the podcast, which we'll link to, where he said that he's trying to live his life with removal of emergencies as much as possible. And I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but the idea of like nothing is an emergency. So when nothing is an emergency and then something becomes one, he only has one to deal with, right? As opposed to all these other emergency things. So,
yeah, good,
Patrick,
good approach.
This has been great. We're recording this like in the later part of June so that we can take the summer off from recording, but you're listening to this episode in, I believe, September. So we'll chat, but we won't do another episode like this probably until September. So we got a couple of months. So where can people keep up with what you're doing and what any big plans between now and the next time that we record that you might want to share? Or
no big plans other than, one of the reasons we take that summer off is I do volunteer rigging for a circus and their big summer show. Rehearsals for that start the week after next, where I literally will be there at least 6 hours a day, 12 once the shows start. And it just won't stop for an entire month. But PatrickRhone.com is the best place to go to find links to all the places I am, also to my books, also to past things I've done. That gives you a wealth of information. It's kind of my digital calling card, as it were, that site. And that's why I recommend people go.
Excellent. Patrick, thanks again for another fine edition of PM Talks, and I will talk to you soon.
Yes. Happy birthday. Take care.
Thanks to Patrick for joining me on this episode. You can find all of the relevant links in the show notes, which can be found at mikevardy.com/podcast545 or wherever you are listening to this podcast right now, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, even YouTube. And while you are using that app of choice, subscribe to the show. That way you won't miss a single episode of what's to come. Plus, it supports the show and it makes it much easier for you to look through the archives for episodes you might have missed. Now, in case you missed this episode the first time around, Friday offers up another Flashback Friday. This one is with John Zeratsky. I'm looking forward to bringing that to you just in a couple of days from now from when this episode dropped. Another way to support the show, by the way, is to check out the sponsors that you heard during the conversation. Head to mikevardy.com/podcast sponsors. Click on any of the links that suit your fancy. Check out those sponsors. And if you support them, they support us. It supports the show. And that way we all win. It's a win-win around the board. And thanks for listening to this episode. It was a win for me. I hope it was a win for you as well. Until next time, I'm Mike Vardy, the host of A Productive Conversation, reminding you to stop doing productive and start being productive. See you later.